Welcome to Module 8. Accident Investigation. In this module you will learn about terminology used by accident investigators, pre-investigation preparations, how to gather data, data analysis, root cause analysis, generating recommendations and reporting and trending of incident investigation results. The marine root cause analysis technique provides an effective and efficient approach for investigating marine incidents of any magnitude. The Incident Investigation Model, also known as MARCAT model, encapsulates a process for conducting investigations following losses, whether they are related to people, structures, machinery, equipment, outfitting or other factors. Terminology. The same terms, relating to incident investigations, are often used differently by different investigators, different organizations, or sometimes within the same organization. For clarity, let's have a look at some of the terminology. Please refer to Relationship of Incident Investigation Terms flowchart in your courseware while watching this section. Incident. Incident is an unplanned sequence of events and/or conditions that results in, or could have reasonably resulted in, a loss event. This definition includes both accidents and near misses. Consequences. Undesirable or unexpected outcomes may result in negative effects for an organization. These consequences can range from minor injuries to major events involving loss of life, extensive property loss, environmental damage, and breaches related to security. So, for example, if a vessel runs aground, the grounding is the incident, whereas the delay in the voyage due to grounding is the consequence. Consequences can be of different magnitudes. For example, grounding can result in no damage to the vessel and just a short delay in completing the voyage. Another grounding can result in hull damage and a large release of cargo. The same level of effort may be put into investigating these two incidents, the first based on the potential consequences, a near miss, and the second based on the actual consequences, an accident. Loss event. Undesirable consequences resulting from events or conditions or a combination of these. Loss events will appear as statements within fault trees, 5Y trees, or causal factor charts. They are developed by the investigator/investigation team to define the scope of the investigation or analysis. The way the loss event is stated and understood will define the scope of the incident analysis. For example, selecting engine failure as the loss event will result in focusing on the engine failure. Selecting vessel grounding after engine failure as the loss event will result in focusing on the engine failure as well as the grounding incident. Selecting oil release after grounding following engine failure as the loss event will result in the investigation of all three aspects of the incident. Because of this, the loss event should be stated carefully and be precisely defined. A loss event definition that only includes the immediate consequences results in recommendations that are fairly narrow in scope. A loss event definition that also includes the subsequent consequences of the incident results in recommendations that are broader in scope. Accident. An incident with unexpected or undesirable consequences. The consequences may be related to personnel injury or fatality, property loss, environmental impact, business loss, etc., or a combination of these. Near miss. An incident with insignificant or no consequences, but that could have reasonably resulted in consequences under different conditions. Or a period of operations where emergency or unusual rapid action was required. Examples of near misses could be such as passing a ship or fixed structure by 50 meters, touching soft bottom without grounding or stranding, restarting a lube oil system before vital system damage or failure occurs. Event. A happening caused by humans, automatically operating equipment/components, external events, or the result of a natural phenomenon. Note: event descriptions typically include action verbs such as walked, turned, opened, said, radioed, discovered, decided, saw, etc. If negative, an error, failure, or external factor, then the event may also be a causal factor, intermediate cause or root cause. Causal factor. Causal factor is structural/machinery/equipment/outfitting problems, human errors, and external factors that caused an incident, allowed an incident to occur, or allowed the consequences of the incident to be worse than they might have been. For a typical incident, there are multiple causal factors. Human error is not a failure to perform as directed, but failure to perform as desired. An individual can follow the procedure precisely and still perform a human error, because the individual does not perform as desired, i.e., there is a gap between actual and desired performance. External factors. Issues outside the control of the organization. Examples include uncharted/unknown hazards to navigation, some sea or weather conditions, suicides or homicides, and external events. Intermediate cause. An underlying reason why a causal factor occurred, but it is not deep enough to be a root cause. Intermediate causes are underlying causes that link causal factors and items of note to root causes. Item of note, ion. A deficiency, error, or failure that is not directly related to the incident sequence that is discovered during the investigation. Ions are usually at the causal factor or intermediate cause level. Ions are similar to audit findings. If left uncorrected, these ions may become causes of future incidents. Underlying causes and recommendations can be developed for ions as part of the investigation. Root cause. Deficiency of a management system that allows the causal factors to occur or exist. Root causes must be within the control of management to address. For a typical causal factor, there are 1 to 4 root causes. Recommendation. A suggestion to develop, modify, or enhance management systems or safeguards. Recommendations can be made to address the causal factor, intermediate cause and/or root cause levels of the incident. Recommendations are the most important product of the analysis. They are what will be implemented to change the organization's behavior and prevent recurrence of the incident or to minimize the consequences of the incident. Root cause analysis, RCA. An analysis that identifies the causal factors, intermediate causes, and root causes of an incident and develops recommendations to address each level of the analysis. Apparent cause analysis, ACA. An analysis that identifies the causal factors for the event and develops recommendations to address them, but does not necessarily identify the root causes of the incident. Let's try to connect all these using an example. Let's say a vessel is doing a coastal route. The second mate forgets to take weather forecast using weather facts and suddenly the vessel encounters heavy weather. Whilst encountering the heavy weather, the third officer is on watch. During his watch he altered course for a waypoint. The third officer was not well trained and failed to alter course in time. The ship ran aground and spilled oil. After the incident, the investigator also found that the third officer was not very competent in collision regulations. In this example, the event is that the third mate failed to alter course. The incident is running aground. The loss event is the oil spill, which the investigator should use in his scope of investigation. The consequence is an actual consequence of delays, hull damage and oil pollution. The condition is that the third officer was ill-trained. The causal factor is the human error of officer of the watch, where he did follow procedures of altering course but did not do it in adequate time. The other causal factor in this incident is the external factor of heavy weather, which made altering course even more difficult. The intermediate cause is that the second mate forgot to get weather forecast. The item of note in this case would be the incompetency of third mate in collision regulations. Even though there was no collision incident in this case, if this was left uncorrected, there could be future incidents because of this. Step 1. Selecting the right incident to analyze. Although root cause analysis is a good process, sometimes the investment in the upfront analysis will not provide enough return in the end to justify the investment in an investigation. For example, suppose that a light in a passageway burns out. Should a root cause analysis be done? Will digging deeper into the levels of the task triangle help solve the problem once and avoid future losses? Will it help with understanding how to change our operations to prevent or minimize the consequences of this failure? Probably not. When bulbs fail after an expected lifetime, they are replaced. Even if one or two burn out prematurely, there is probably not much to be learned from an investigation into why this occurred. For lights in passageways, the consequences of the failure of the bulb are small enough that the failure can be tolerated for a short period. For this particular failure, one could choose to wait for the failure to occur and then respond to it by replacing the bulb. Could some proactive strategy be identified for preventing bulb failures? Maybe, but it probably would not be worth the effort because the consequences of the failure are so small. Step 2. Initiating the investigation. In this step, preparation for conducting an investigation occurs. Activities in this step include ensuring that there is a precise and agreed upon definition of the issue, notifying relevant people, determining how much effort to invest in the investigation, putting together a team, and gathering the resources needed to perform the investigation. You would need things like calipers, headlights, measuring tapes, digital cameras, batteries, PPE, memo notes, etc. A checklist showing list of resources required is included in your courseware. Step 3. Gathering and preserving data. In this step, data is gathered. Factual information derived from data gathering activities serves as the basis for all valid conclusions and recommendations from an investigation. Without effective data gathering, the incident cannot be truly defined and investigated. Gathering data usually takes more time than other investigation steps. There are 5 basic types of data. 1. People, i.e. interviews with or written statements from witnesses, participants, etc. 2. Physical, i.e. parts, chemical samples, personal protective equipment, structures, outfitting items, logs, paper charts, correspondences, etc. 3. Paper, i.e. hard copies of procedures, policies, drawings, sketches, notes, navigational charts, cargo documents, etc. 4. Electronic, i.e. electronic copies of performance and operational data, analysis results, procurement specifications, emails, navigational charts, loading specifications, etc. 5. Position, i.e. locations of people and physical data. It should be noted that the most reliable source of data is the paper format. For data from people, the person conducting the interview should be more or less on the same level as the person being interviewed. Not very high and not low ranked. The location of interview should be somewhere familiar to the person being interviewed. Not somewhere like captain's cabin. People quickly forget lots of information. For example, do you remember how many cars you saw on your way to work today? Or do you remember what are the exact wordings on a pound coin? Probably not. This is why the interview should start with open-ended questions. For example, tell me what you saw or did when you first knew of the problem. Avoid the urge to interrupt with questions after asking open-ended questions. Be quiet and let the witness talk. The point of asking these open-ended questions is to let the witness take you wherever he or she wants to go. Near the end of the interview, ask closed-ended questions, questions that only require short answers. For example, do you use a procedure to start the system, instead of how do you start up the system? Resolve to remain unbiased and to avoid any actions/questions that may lead the witness. For example, ask, in what order do you open the valves, instead of you open valve 21 before valve 31, right? Pretending ignorance usually results in obtaining more information than acting too smart. Remember, the point of the interview is to obtain information from the witness, not to show the witness how smart you are. Avoid accusatory questions. For example, ask how does the procedure say to do it, instead of that's not the way you're supposed to do it, is it? Step 4. Analyzing data. Data analysis is at the heart of the incident investigation process. The goal of data analysis is to identify causal factors and their underlying root causes. For each causal factor, multiple root causes will be identified. Therefore, for every causal factor that is missed, the investigators will miss multiple root causes. The Marquardt methodology uses 3 basic tools to perform this step: the causal factor chart, the fault tree, and the 5 whys technique. However, other tools can also be used, such as hazard and operability analysis. Fault tree analysis is best used for structural/machinery problems. 5 why technique is best used for smaller incidents, and the causal factor chart is usually the best tool for incidents with safety and environmental impacts. The causal factor chart technique is the only technique which shows relative timings of events. Any of these analysis techniques can be used to organize the data that has been collected in Step 3. The data analysis techniques also help identify the data that still needs to be collected and the questions that need to be answered to understand the incident and its causes. By specifically identifying the needed data, the Step 3 is made more efficient. As a result, the data analysis step often sends us back to Step 3 to gather more data. This loop may occur many times during an investigation. The end goal of this step is to identify the causal factors. These techniques are covered in more detail in your courseware. Step 5. Identifying root causes. Once the who, what, where and when of the incident is understood and the human errors, structural problems, and external factors that led to the incident have been identified, the underlying causes of the incident can be understood. Root cause identification methods assist us in probing deeply enough to understand the underlying causes of the incident. It is important to verify that the root causes meet the criteria for a root cause by using the causal factor, root cause and recommendation checklist included in your courseware. Step 6. Developing recommendations. Identifying causes is not enough. Changes need to be made that address each of the underlying causes that have been identified. In this step, short-term, medium-term and long-term recommendations are developed to address the causes identified in Steps 4 and 5. Measures to assess the effectiveness of the recommendations are also developed. Step 7. Completing the investigation. To complete the investigation process, everything needs to be pulled together in a report. In this step, the results of the analysis are communicated to those who were not on the team. Then it needs to be ensured that the recommendations developed in Step 6 are implemented. Finally, the investigation process itself is critiqued and improved. Step 8. Selecting problems for analysis. In this step, a method to select incidents for analysis is determined. Guidance is provided for determining if an immediate analysis is performed or if the incident data are only documented or trended. Investigation of near misses and chronic event analyses are also addressed. Step 9. Trending. Steps 2 through 8 were performed on those incidents that had sufficiently large actual or potential consequences to warrant an investigation on their own. This step looks at all the data from incidents that have been analyzed, as well as all of those that it was decided not to analyze, to see if a group of incidents should be analyzed together. Are the same types of problems occurring repeatedly? If so, it may be decided that an investigation of this group of incidents is warranted. Step 10. Following up an investigation. Finally, once an investigation is completed and recommendations accepted, follow-up is needed to determine the effectiveness of the implemented preventative and correction actions. No matter how thorough the analysis, it is possible that the recommended actions are not completed or that they were not effective as solving the original problem. Summary. The goal of incident investigation is not only to understand the what and how of an incident, but also why it happened. The analysis of an incident begins with the gathering of data. As the data are gathered, they are organized and analyzed using causal factor charting, fault tree analysis or the 5 whys technique, or other appropriate tools. The goal is first to identify the causal factors for the incident. Causal factors are those contributors, human errors, problems, and external factors, that, if eliminated, would have either prevented the occurrence or reduced its severity. Once the incident is understood, root causes are identified for each causal factor. Root causes are deficiencies of management systems that allow the causal factors to occur or exist. Finally, recommendations are developed and implemented to eliminate the root causes and prevent the causal factors from occurring again. 2 levels of analysis can be performed. For an apparent cause analysis, the analysis only goes to the causal factor or intermediate cause level. Root cause analyses identify deeper underlying causes. Root cause analysis differs from traditional problem solving in that the root cause analysis approach is more structured. The structure of the approach is intended to ensure that a more thorough analysis is performed and assumptions are examined. With root cause analysis, you solve the cause of the problem and not just the problem. Thanks for watching this module. See you another time.